Excellent. Anyone else? I don't myself, so I'm leaving it up to you guys.
Hey, I've got a question for Brett, if you're really here.
Yeah, I'm right. What's up?
Oh, hey. This might be something you don't want to go into detail in, and fair enough if so. Back quite some time ago, you put out some kind of woo-woo targets on your YouTube, including the whole Moksha project and all of the bad stuff going on, and then took it all down. And someone said like that people had taken that really out of context and were doing some horrible, were using that to justify whatever stuff they were peddling. Is that something you can talk about? I don't want to, if it isn't, but
I mean, I can talk a little bit about it if you're interested, because I did.
Yeah. I was just curious what happened. All that stuff just suddenly went down, and it was like, oh, Brett's gone dark. What's happening?
It's funny because it's like the way the internet works is you tell the story to like one person, then you tell it to like 5 people, then you tell it to this like how many times do I have to repeat the story kind of thing. So, but I don't mind repeating again, kind of like what the deal with that was. I don't know if it's mundane, but the government got to me, and they needed to say, and I just had to be quiet, guys. No, it was just it was actually a decision on my part because of a lot of the feedback I was getting from people. I mean, Daz probably knows a little bit about this, why they keep some of their stuff behind a paywall. And it's just because when you put some things out there, let me back up one step. What I realize is that putting out data like that takes a little bit more responsibility. A little bit more responsibility should be taken, and care should be taken when you put data out like that, because of the nature of the way people respond to it. And it's not that like the data in of itself to most people is going to do anything or harm people. It's not. But what I ended up experiencing was getting a tremendous amount of emails from people that were not in a good place. Basically, I mean, I don't want to go like too down this rabbit hole, but like it was really leading people to some pretty dark places. And it was not at all my intention, obviously, with that type of content. And unfortunately, just on YouTube, there's no way for me to control it, right? Because it wasn't behind a paywall of any of that sort. And so I made a decision that the type of content at that time when I was doing that, I wanted to reverse it a little bit and make it a little bit more positive and kind of like helpful to people, as opposed to people that maybe were looking for that type of material on YouTube and then they would just go darker and deeper down a hole. And so it was a little bit of a lesson for me to learn. It's like I need a little bit more responsibility on how I release data. And then after that point, I shifted gears really on what my focus was. And so it wasn't that, this is my cover story, the CIA told me to say, but it genuinely was, that was the number one reason, is I was just getting a lot of really kind of disturbing emails from people that were taking the data the wrong way, that were making conclusions that was completely not what the data said. And then they were like using it to confirm other people's work that had nothing to do with RV. And I was just like, there's got to be a better way to do this responsibly. I just didn't want to keep contributing to that. And I'd rather put something a little bit more positive out there at that time than keep going down that road. So it was definitely a learning experience. That YouTube channel for me always was a little bit of an experiment. That's kind of the long and the short of it. Hopefully kind of answers your
thanks.
The question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was watching that stuff as a remote viewer, and with all the caveats of how we interpret data and take it with a pinch of salt. And I guess some people don't have that.
Well, some people aren't in the best headspace when looking at that stuff, and as many warnings and like things I put on it, I felt like I wasn't being responsible putting it out there just on YouTube. And I mean, Daz, I don't know, maybe you could, I'm curious. I'm sure I heard Dick the other day in one of his videos say exactly this. And it was like, I went through this like 2 years ago. I was like, man, it was a little bit of a learning experience for me. But Dick said there's a reason that we have it behind a paywall because I mean, there's a whole slew of things. So I don't know. I'd be curious about what your opinion is on that, Daz.
Yeah, well, I mean, cryptocurrency aside, we're doing lots of like news predictions and stuff, and we do the occasional what we call mystery target, but we're doing lots of news predictions. And for the last well, how long's it? A year now. The news predictions have been taking a darker tone, especially before the pandemic, and we didn't really know what it meant, because we were trying to predict not just news, but we were given targets. The tasker gives us what they call these geo targets. So he sets these set events, and like for example, one of them was the May Day parade in New York, which is meant to happen, in a few days' time. And he set us this as a target, and this is just one of many that he set, these geo targets, which are set events in time, a certain date in the future. So he set us targets like that, and you get 4 remote viewers come back, and not a single remote viewer gets any data that has anything to do with people being happy and having a May Day parade. So we all come back with all these data of people being segregated, and some people being hungry and rights taken away from them, all kinds of weird stuff like this. And this is months in advance of the pandemic taking hold and lockdowns and stuff. So we get data like that, and you look at it and you're thinking, well, what the hell do you do with data like this? Because you don't really understand it yourself, and it's hard because you can't really, although you feel you have this obligation to tell people about these kind of potential, I won't say they're definite events, but potential future events. At the same time, you can't just chuck that kind of stuff straight out on YouTube and let the cards fall where they lie, kind of thing. Because, as Brett said, there are different types of people out there, and there are some very emotionally unstable, mentally unstable people. I get emails all the time from people, and for example, I get emails from people that, and they've just watched the Ed Dames material, and they're like, "Oh my God, the kill shot's coming! I need to find my sanctuary. Please help me find their sanctuary." And they're literally begging in the emails, and they're like, "I'll give you every penny I got. Please remote view me and tell me where I can go to save myself." So there are a lot of people that are affected by this kind of fear porn, kind of, I don't know, end of the world type stuff. So you have to be very careful on what you put out there. And not only that as well, YouTube does censor as well. I mean, it was only a few weeks back that they were censoring anyone that mentioned the word COVID-19 in their videos. And they a week or two ago, they were censoring anyone that was mentioning Bitcoin in their videos. Their videos would do well for a day, and then they would drop off for a week, and then they would do well again afterwards. So there's that reason. So be very careful with that. Let some more people in here a second. So yeah, you just have to be very careful, and that's why we were on Patreon, but we're now moving away from that. We've got our own website, but having our own website allows us to say a lot more and show a lot more on our own website, because there's no chance of it being pulled and controlled by other people. But yeah, I have no, within the crypto viewing group, I don't have a say in what they put out there content wise. So it's not like it's a group decision on what goes out. I just do my RV, and whoever compiles it and edits it, they put it out there. Yeah. So, but you have to try to be as ethical as possible. Tell everyone that if it's like future-based stuff and there's bad stuff happening, it's only your view of it. It's only remote viewing. Remote viewing should always be used with other forms of information. Never on its own. Just try to act as responsibly as possible. But at the same time, I have tons of emails over the last 3 months from people saying thank you to us from what we did on crypto viewing, because in months in advance of the lockdown going full core, we were telling people to stock up on food, get themselves a preparedness kind of kit, a bug out bag with everything they needed. And I have emails of people saying you kind of saved our lives, you saved us money. So at the same time, you can do good, but there are vulnerable people out there that do take whatever you say to heart and sometimes go a bit off scale with things. So you have to be, it's a balance. I think you have to be very careful what you do.
So Daz, on your actual YouTube, are you getting much feedback, and how's it going?
Yeah, we're getting, we could always, we can always do some more subscriptions stuff, but it's a very niche market, remote viewing. But everyone seems to like the videos we're putting out so far. I plan to do a load more as well. I got a big list here of interviews I want to do with people, so I'm going to try to kickstart those. As people have seen, I'm trying to put my raw footage that I've been collecting for years out there. I got about another 8 of those projects that could go out. It's like, but it's weird things like the pyramids, Mars, Phoenix Lights, and a few projects like that. So I can put the raw footage out from all of those that I've done over the years. And as I said, I got the interviews on to do. Yeah, and we're getting lots of good feedback. People are liking the stuff, and also they put these talks on there as well, because I think anyone that's new to remote viewing, they can earwig in on any of these talks that we're having and pick up useful bits of information. So it's going well at the moment, and we're in an age where we have to whether we like it or not, we're in an age now of content. And anyway, all the people out there, they want content, and they want it fast. They want it on YouTube. They want it on Netflix.
So what do you mean by content?
Well, they want fun. Most people out there want fun, fast, informative content, and especially when it comes to remote viewing, because remote viewing is pretty boring, to be honest. If you do a remote viewing session normally on any kind of target, you're going to end up with like 20 to 100 sheets of white paper. And even if you're videoing yourself as a remote viewer, just writing down on sheets of paper, it's just, no one wants to sit down and watch 4 hours of that. It's just really boring. So you have to kind of go with the flow of the new technologies, like these Zoom chats that we're videoing, and like what we're doing with YouTube and stuff, and try to condense your content down, interspace it with bits of other information in what they call B-roll footage, just to make it a little bit more.
What you call what? Sorry.
Palatable. B-roll.
What does that mean?
Well, you have two lots of kind of footage. You have your A-roll, which is the important stuff, which is like if you're doing an interview. It's the main person being interviewed and stuff. But you also have what they call B-roll, which is like cutaway bits and pieces as well. So a cutaway in a B-roll of an interview would be if the person asking the questions and stuff just sat there going. Like if you do like a professional video for people, like I've done a couple now. You do the entire interview, and then they'll sit there with the camera in front of you, and they'll say, okay, now we need you to do your nodding scenes as your B-roll. So you have to sit there like this, and you have to go. And you have to do loads of those over and over. And what they do is they then, when they cut it all together, when they feel that they've got a couple minutes into the footage and it's starting to get a little bit slightly boring, they'll then cut away to the interviewer or someone going. And it's not just stuff like that, but it's also like if you're showing pictures of remote viewing, B-roll would be like a close up of a sketch at a key point. And the remote viewer might be reciting or saying something, then you zoom in on a sketch and that kind of stuff. Or if the project was like a video about Roswell, and the remote viewer was saying, I think I can see grey aliens and stuff. You would have, as B-roll, you would have a cutaway scene of someone who's done a 3D sketch or a painting or of an alien or something, just to give it that extra bit of content in your video.
So basically, it's just contriving it to be more interesting for a viewer that don't really understand it all.
Yes, because in the past, and I don't know if Brett or anyone else has had this, but I had loads of people in the past. You'd say, I've done an amazing remote viewing session. Here's 50 sheets of paper as a PDF, and most people, they just don't nowadays. They just don't have the attention span and to be honest, they don't understand the acronyms and the way a CRV method works anyway on paper. But they don't have the time or the inclination to want to sit through that kind of stuff. We're in an age now where people want to watch a 5-minute video.